Well, I'm watching. I don't see nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, welcome to the SideQuest, your weekly, again, podcast talking about video games and video game culture. I am the one, the only Dolly Demosky. Yes, it did auto tweet. Joining me is Aaron Kelly.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, it's going so good. I'm chilling here. My pocket, holy shit. My pocket is inside out on my fucking pants here. Sorry, I've already started swearing. And it feels like my hand's like buried deep into my butt. But really, I'm just like trying to adjust my back pocket. So if you see me doing one of these things, I'm not like.
We made it 30 seconds this week before we got into the butt talk.
That's true. That's true.
We jumped right into being inside butts.
I wonder if Ryan Gann will watch us. I'm gonna say, hey, Ryan.
I bet Ryan Gann is too busy playing Smash. I hear he dominates at that game.
So Ryan Gann has, at my last check, 285 hours into Smash Brothers, which is equal to his 285 hours on the Switch version of Minecraft. Now, granted, he's probably put at least that much in the Wii U version of Minecraft. And then he has about 155 hours of, what's it called again?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. So between those three games, one of which he's already put in like 300, 400 hours on a previous console, he's got like, if my math is right, like 700 hours. That's insane. That's insane. I don't even have that much time complete in my Switch usage, let alone.
That is. Well, let me just look up a number here to give a little context. That is 507 hours less than I have in RimWorld.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. How many?
I have 1,207 hours in RimWorld. Just that one game.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I've never played it.
Yeah, and that's all like playing. Like none of that is just like for getting up and walking away or anything like that. So
for some reference on what 285 hours is, it's been 60 days since December. Wait, when did December 1st when Smash Brothers came out? I think, right? Or no, December
4th, wasn't it? I'm checking. January 21st, 1999.
No, Super Smash Brothers. They're on Smash Brothers.
December 7th.
December 7th. Okay. So days since December 7th. It's if my math is correct, it's like 54 days. Yeah, 54 days. 285 hours. I'm going to divide that by 24 because there are 24 hours in a day. Out of those 54 days, Ryan Gann has played for 12, could have essentially played for 12 days straight in Smash Brothers. So only like 30, 40 days, whatever, have not been smashed. But it's just fucking crazy. What's 285 divided by 54? I'm using my thing. He plays on average over 5 hours a day. So good for Ryan.
That's a lot considering matches are like what, 3 minutes or something like that.
Exactly. And he has a kid, and he teaches. So,
does he?
Yeah.
I had no idea Gann had a kid.
Yeah, Little Gann, they call him.
What's up, Little Gann?
So yeah, hey everybody, welcome to the SideQuest. It's Aaron and I until Tom said he should be joining us because we need him to join us talk Kingdom Hearts.
And we might have a surprise guest.
A surprise guest. I'm not going to name any names, but it is Phil Fish.
He's coming out of retirement.
He's coming out of retirement.
Was Phil Fish the one that quit?
I think so. Yeah, he quit because he got pissy.
Yeah.
Which is like, come on. We know that the internet's toxic, but at the same time, it's okay to just take a breather and not be upset everybody. Okay.
I mean, you could just be like Logic and get off social media.
Exactly.
Just do your shit and never engage with social media, and you'll be happier for it.
In fact, that's probably the right way to do things. We can talk about some stuff. Let's talk about what we've been playing first, and then we'll get into a little bit of news. So I'll start with what I've been playing because we might be talking a little bit more about what you've been playing afterwards.
Probably,
given the amount of time we have. And
here's the funny part. If you would not have said that, I probably wouldn't have talked about it.
Oh, really?
I completely blanked it because I'm working on the review for the other thing. So
okay, well, why don't you talk about what's not related to the other thing you're playing until the guest shows up to talk about the thing you're playing.
All right,
and we'll go from there.
So I've been playing. My Time at Portia. Portia.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever heard it pronounced in game, but yeah. So that's I got 76 hours into it since I got it.
Wow! Holy shit! Nice.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot, and then you start playing the game, and that game's got real weird pacing, man. So you don't actually get a lot done in 76 hours.
Okay.
So it's Harvest Moon, it's Stardew Valley, like that sort of game. But instead of working a farm, you're working a carpentry shop almost. But it's set in like a post-apocalyptic future. So like some sort of Armageddon has happened, and now society is rebuilding, and there's like ancient technology, like just like machines, like basic engines and shit like that are in these ruins, and you go into these ruins and you dig them up, and then you can build things out of them if you have the recipe to build things out of them. And so people in the town are like, I need a water wheel to power some irrigation for this tree farm, and can you build it for me? And then you gotta do that shit. So that's what it is instead of farming. And like it kind of nails the loop, like the the Stardew Harvest loop, where it's like you wake up and you run into town and you talk to people and you make friends and you gather materials to build the things, and then you turn the things in, and then you got to build new stuff and you learn new recipes and shit like that. But it's just paced very weirdly. So it's like in those kind of games, like you talk to people and you build relationship with them, right? Sure. And then over time you become friends with them. In something like Stardew, you can become friends with a person in like the first month. Like if you really laser focus on it, you can do that. And in this game, it's like it takes forever. Like you talk to somebody and you get like a point, and it's like a single heart out of 10 hearts. It feels like 50 or 100 points. And then as you get more friendly with them, you can do more stuff to get more points, but it takes so long to get those first points. It's like you're not friends with anybody until like the 3rd month in the game or something like that. That's like a lot of time. And so it's one of those things where I'm playing it and I'm making notes of this in my head, and then there's like an in-game calendar, so you can see what day of the month you're on or what day of the season you're on. And it's like my first playthrough, I'm 3 seasons into it, so that's probably like 40 hours or something like that. Like maybe a little less than that, maybe 30 hours. And it's like I just became friends with the first person out of like I think it's like 57 different people exist in this town, and it's like you become friends with all of them, and it's like I just became friends with the first one of them after like 30 hours or 40 hours. And I'm just like, man, if they tweak the numbers on this would be a lot smoother. Like you'd be able to make friends faster, and sure. It's just weird. And then when you're building stuff, usually that goes really fine, except it doesn't really teach you. It's like, yeah, you got this recipe book, and any recipes you learn are in it, and there's some in there already. And then you go to the job board and somebody's like, I need 4 small planter boxes, and you're like, all right, this has an ingredient that I don't get from like cutting down trees or hitting rocks or some shit like that. How do I get that? And then if you look in the recipe book, you'll see like on really odd ingredients, like scribbled into the book, like, oh, you can find this in the ruins, but it's in really small print, and it doesn't really ever tell you to look for that shit in the book. So my first playthrough, I'm like, I can't find any of this shit. I don't know what's going on. And so it just takes forever to get quests done. And the quests, it seems like the game expects that it's going to take you forever to get this shit done. I keep swearing because I've been drinking, but like,
and so spilling it on yourself too.
Yeah, and spilling it on myself. So don't take the swearing as a as an indictment of the game because I'm still playing it, but it's just like you'll get a quest and it's like build these 4 boxes, and then you look at the time remaining and it's like 13 days or something like that, like more than half a season.
Wow.
So it feels like it almost expects you to struggle to figure out what to do. So it's just that it's like every single piece of that game has that gameplay loop that you expect from a game like this, but everything is paced just
like, it seems like it's like off paced on each of the tasks.
It just like I just keep thinking like this would be such an easy, like I'm not a game developer. I don't know how easy a fix this would actually be, but it just seems like if you went in and just knocked a 0 off every number, like it would make it so much snappier. But and then you get into things where it's like they're the main story quests, right? It's like there's a quest early on where it's like we want you to build 2 bridge heads and a bridge middle because we want to build a bridge out to this island that's in the lake. And that's like one of the story quests, and there's no time limit on it, so it's just like as you can do it. And you do that and you turn it in and it's like, oh, you know, oh, that's great, thanks, that's really cool. And then there's no other story quest happening for like 5 or 10 in-game days because I don't think the game expected you to do it that quickly. And then later on, like towards like I'm in the 3rd season on my 2nd playthrough, so I know what's coming for the whole 1st year. So I'm just banging this stuff out. Like I know where to get the materials before the story quests even come up. So it's like as the story quests come up, I can just make the shit and do it in like the same day that the quests appear. So there's this new one where it's like, we need you to build a bridge to where we need you to build parts so we can build a bridge to the desert because we're going to open a trade route with another town. And you've got 24 days to build like these parts. And I did it all in the 1st day thinking like, see, now I know what's going on. So I'm going to do all this shit and all the story quests will advance. And it's like, no, I'm just running around town doing nothing because there's no story quest because the game doesn't have like a contingency for, oh, you did it all really quickly. So I'm just running around doing like side quests as they pop up, but mostly just like chopping trees and stockpiling materials because I got nothing else to do except
you're just kind of waiting. It's like a weird. It's almost sounds like it sounds like a game that's kind of designed for like some free to play where you're just stuck waiting. You finished your task, now you got to wait for that time to pass before you can get on to the next one. So just mine a bunch of random shit between now and then. Yeah,
and then they have the flip side where it's like I'm sending the Hangout link, by the way.
Okay.
Just so you know. But then it's the flip side where it's like stuff is paced weird in the other direction. So I mentioned this bridge to the desert. So in this game, when you go to the job board, usually you're only allowed to take 1 quest a day, regardless of if you can do it immediately or not. But you can technically take 2 quests a day. You can take a story quest because that doesn't count, and then you can take like a villager quest, I guess, whatever they're called, like a little side quest. So I go to the
side quest,
yeah. So I go to the job board, and there's a job like I'm working on this bridge to the desert, and then I go to the job board, and it's like this one person's like, oh, I need 3 linen rugs. And I'm like,
3 linen rugs, okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, cool. I've never made that before, but I remember seeing it in like my work table. So I run over to the work table, I take the quest, I run over to the work table, and I go to make it. And if you have the ingredients stockpiled, you can just make it. Like if they're in your stores, that's kind of a cool feature. You don't got to run shit. Like if you just have it, you can do it. And I can see I can make 0 linen rugs, and I'm like, well, fuck! It doesn't tell me what the ingredients are, and because it's not a construction thing, you can't see the recipe for it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to Google it. I'm going to see what the recipe is. And I look it up and I look at the recipe, and the recipe, one of the ingredients is like spider webs or something. I've never fought a spider in this game. So I'm like, all right, where the fuck do I find spider webs? And I'm Google. Oh, it's this enemy that appears in the desert, which I can't get to because the bridge isn't made, even though I've turned all the pieces in. I can't get to the desert, and I've already done this once, so I know that the bridge won't even be usable until the very end of this month, and this quest runs out in 6 days. I've still got like 15 days to the end of the month, so I'm going to fail the quest. There's literally no way to complete it. Why is it on the job board? So it's just it's little stuff like that.
It seems like it needs a lot of like it needs enough tweaking and rebalancing to really get it to
and
sort of click. Because you mentioned like just from like a bystander hearing you talk about this and just kind of seeing some video clips, it feels like there's you mentioned the word snappiness, and there's not enough snappiness, and I think people are starting to get like weary. I know I'm getting weary of games where I have to wait for shit to happen. And I'll get a little bit into the game one of the games I was kind of playing. But anytime you have to wait for something to happen and it's like a timed wait, it's like, no, it slows down my satisfaction of the game, because then I'm just kind of off doing meaningful tasks. And this seems like it suffers from that slowdown of just bad design slowdown and not technical slowdown.
Yeah, and it's like I think the expectation is that, oh, well, while you're in between jobs, maybe you'll run around the town and focus more on making friends and stuff like that. But you can clear that up in no time. Like,
sure,
you can't talk to everybody in a day, but you can pick like 5 or 6 people, maybe 10 people that are around that are in the same spot every day, and you go talk to them. You get a couple of points, and then maybe in a whole season there'll be a 1 heart level higher. And maybe you'll be able to give them gifts or something like that. But yeah, so it's just, or you can go get resources. So like there's stuff to do when you can't do anything, but it's just like, I don't know. Like,
is it only on Steam right now, or is it on consoles too?
I believe it's only on Steam right now.
So it sort of reminds me a little bit. I mean, obviously, you mentioned the Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley. Those are some of its main influences. But
no, it's on PS4 apparently.
It's on PS4. Okay, but have you played any of Have you played Dragon Quest Builders?
I have not played Builders.
Okay, so Dragon Quest Builders is interesting because they started off with a Minecraft sort of game, but they threw it's not really a Minecraft. It's more of a farming and building game, because your whole goal is to build up towns. And I'm like halfway through the first game on Switch, but your whole job is to build up towns, but you have to go harvest. You have to use recipes and harvest certain things to get recipes, and some pieces of those recipes are located like all the way on the other end of the group of islands that you're on. And there are the only like gate, I guess, in those is that, or the stoppage is just getting over to the stuff that you have to get. Things usually happen pretty quickly. So once you've crafted something, the box is checked and you're okay. Really, the only thing you have to worry about is at nighttime you get all the whatever. I don't know. They're like creepers in them. I don't even know what they are in Minecraft games, but they're the enemies in Dragon Quest. They just kind of show up at the gates of the little village that you're building. And so, yeah, you build up the recipes, you can build up the village, and you have kind of a cool little mini RPG built within this Minecraft meets Harvest Moon type of world. And but it's not really time based. You're not waiting for shit to happen. You're just kind of clicking boxes, and if you got the ingredients, you can build the stuff. If you don't, just go out and get the ingredients till you're ready. I think it sounds like my time at Portia could use a little bit more of that just snappiness to.
And then when I first started playing it, there were a lot of technical issues as well.
They just released like a big patch or something, right?
They've been patching it off and on, pretty consistently over the dozens of hours I put into it. But there was just like nothing game breaking that I ever ran into, but just like weird shit. Like you'd walk into a house and an NPC would just be floating like 20 feet in the air.
That's by intent, actually. That he's been practicing levitation.
And then like the interact box would still be there, so you'd talk to them and they just snap back to the ground, and you could keep talking to them. Just like weird stuff like that. The voice acting, the voice acting's hit or miss. Like it's all it's all really good, and like every character that has voice acting, has a personality, but it sounds like some of it might have been recorded in a sound booth and some of it might have been recorded at a home studio. Like there's a notable, like it's not egregious, but like I swear I can pick up like a little bit of static, a little bit of cheap soundproofing foam, like just in the background. I don't know. I could be totally off base with that, but yeah.
By the way, hi Azul. I never know how to pronounce your name whenever you're watching the podcast, but whoever you are, hello. So yeah, my time at Portia, and that I think some reviews are starting to pop out. I think it's been actually some reviews have been around for like the last week, but more and more are starting to pop up. So I'm curious to see how this goes. These are the kinds of games that I think are fantastic on the Switch, because like the handheld portable idea of these things is great. You just kind of chill and zone out and farm and craft shit. And I don't know if they're great for like big screens on consoles, but I'd be curious if this ever shows up on the Switch. I mean, it probably will. Everything eventually comes to the Switch, so
yeah, and I mean,
some way or another.
Like, I have issues with it, but I don't think it's a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's as good as a Stardew.
Okay.
I think it's better than some of the Harvest Moon games have been recently.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do a little bit of digging before you go into it, because it's like, if you're going into this expecting it to be like specifically farming, like it's not going to be. Like it's more heavily combat than any of those games are. Even Stardew.
That's good.
Even Stardew, which like has you going into like, a 100-floor mine or fighting monsters at night and stuff like that. It's even more combat-y than that. And like the art style might be a little off-putting for a lot of people because it's not 2D and it's not, like, it's like a squat character. You know what I mean? Like Harvest Moon.
The chibi, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't really that. But yeah, it's okay.
I'm looking at some of the images right now of the game. It has a little bit of Dragon Quest VIII style look to it, I guess. Actually, if anything, it reminds me a lot of Pokemon Let's Go with the character, just the proportions there. So they got like, they're sort of these little skinny little bodies but big heads. So it has a pretty nice aesthetic, to be honest. Oh shit!
Shh. Welcome to the Games Beat the Sides podcast. This is your host, Jeffrey GRUBB. I'm taking over. Welcome. With me is
New World Order.
It's the invasion, and it has begun. How do I sound? Do I sound okay?
You sound good. You sound great.
Yeah. So I hacked you guys, and I found the link, and I was able to get in here. I just finished my Shake Shack, so hopefully I don't have anything between my teeth. But I figured I'd come here and talk to you guys about a video game, if that's okay.
Yes, this is perfect timing because we're just on the topic of video games. How great!
Yeah, I know you guys normally talk about like cars and sports,
and banjos,
lots of politics, lots of politics.
Oh shit! Southeast Malaysian politics.
Yes. And you guys do makeup tutorials most weeks. Yeah, I figured maybe we could push those aside and talk about a video game for once.
It'll be tough, but I think we're gonna have to.
All right. The game's called Eco, and I'm playing it with my friend Scratty down there.
Yeah.
Is there a way to see you guys use Hangouts? I hate this shit. This is garbage. You guys need to use a real app.
We use like Twitch.
Yeah, I can't see both of you at the same time. It's frustrating.
I'm sure
there's a way to do it, but whatever.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, I don't know. So Scratty, tell me what you've told the people about Eco. I haven't listened to this week. I think I listened last week, but your guys' release schedule's so haphazard. Who knows what I've listened to?
Yeah,
it's
who knows what we've recorded.
So the last time I talked about Eco was shortly after my and your Game of the Year list had gone up.
Okay.
And so I gave people the rundown, pointed them, go look at Jeff's thing, because Jeff had like a very more in-depth look at it. I gave him the rundown of what the game was and what we all got up to, and specifically the fact, my role in the first game we played, where I was very secretly hoarding currency to take it out of circulation, stuff like that.
God damn you, Aaron.
And then
I learned about that happening like after you talked about that too. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, huh?
Yep.
So I mean, that's what the game is. So everyone is kind of doing their own thing, but you're all contributing to this goal of eventually taking down the meteor, possibly. But this time around, we decided to do. We're calling it the Big Eco Game. It's happening right now. I got a bunch of people together, a bunch of us who played last time, and then there's a bunch of people from the Waypoint community Discord, a bunch of people from the unofficial Giant Bomb Discord, and then a bunch of other people here and there, and even fans of the game that Strange Loop, the developer, they invited them in. So I think all in all,
themselves are playing.
Yeah, the developers themselves have their own community. They have a cult apparently somewhere on the other side of the world that I haven't even seen yet. So there's so far we've had over 110 people log in, and I would say on average each day we probably get I mean, this is the term, like maybe like 50 daily active users or something like
Wow.
that. Yeah, so it's like it's a really active server still. Like at any one time, you can have up to like, you know, if it's late at night, there's 15 people online, and then, you know, in the meat of the day, there's like 30 to 35 people all playing at the same time. And we've kind of got to a point where it's like, you could see how this really is an educational game. Like they bill it as that. That's how it got its funding. It's like how they pitched it for their Kickstarter originally, and now they've got a bunch of grants and stuff from like government organizations to create this thing that teaches people about the effect you have on the environment. And like playing it this way, where you have these different communities and stuff, and everyone's sort of having to like work together and seeing like where the differences like bubble up, that you could see where a teacher could take all these things that are happening and turn them into lessons. And for grown adults who are all playing this game, really it's kind of just chaos at a lot of points, or it's like reasons to get mad at a video game and at other people playing a video game. And like, you really just have to work through the problems. I think an early example was I built a bridge from our continent to what was essentially going to be Waypoint's continent. They have a desert community up to the north of us. I knew we were going to have to trade with them. We're going to need to establish ourselves in the desert, because in this version of the game we're playing, we got early access to 8.0. Resources are really spread out in a way that they weren't before. So we have to kind of get out of our village. God damn you, motherfucking vaping in my face. And so we've had to spread out. We've had to like build literally build bridges as well as figuratively. And in that process, you know, people see a bridge getting built out of nowhere and no one's communicating that to them, and they start to like create this idea in their head of what they think that bridge means. And then they start proposing laws, because the game has a really functional and binding legal system where people can vote, you know, by popular vote, can pass laws that affect what is possible in the game. And they're like, oh, well, we want to make this sovereign land so no one can own it and do stuff with this bridge that is going to clearly be important down the line. But you know, the people that proposed the law for the bridge that I built by myself, they didn't contribute to the bridge, and yet now they're passing laws on that bridge. So this becomes like a really crazy, like it becomes a focal point for any frustrations you have with any other players. It becomes a focal point for any fears you have about, like, I can't play enough right now. And other people who are like poop socking, playing nonstop, they're going to get far ahead, and they're going to get all these claims on all this important land, and they're going to get so far ahead that all the effort I'm putting into this game is going to be meaningless, and I'm going to feel bad later. This all happens in your head, yeah.
And I mean, that happens regardless, exacerbated by the fact that you have people like me who are playing the role of a meteor worshipping cultist and setting my community against the other communities intentionally.
Yeah, and like, so yes, people are playing selfishly, and that's encouraged by the game to a certain extent. So one of the new differences in 8.0 that we're playing, this game is still in early access, so it's like really 0.8.0, but it's 8.0 for short. One of the differences is how you earn skills. Previously, in the previous versions of the game, you would just always be gaining skill points that you could then spend. But what happened is people would always kind of just hoard all their skill points and then spend them all at once to magically get their efficiency and like you know, smelting to the highest level of efficiency right away before they smelted anything. And so, you know, that worked to a certain extent, but now this time you actually have to do smelting to get expertise in that speciality. You still are earning skill points to learn like new jobs and stuff down the line. But for actually getting better at smelting, you need to do that act. But in the meantime, you still are earning these skill points in the background that you can then learn. You know, if I want to go learn woodworking or whatever, that's still happening in the background. And the way you gain those points is by having a really good diet and a really good home. So it's like your environment. Your environment is a really important part of, and that's your personal environment, not like the global environment. And so that sort of encourages you to play selfishly. So if you are a person like, let's say, Scratty Bones here,
hello,
you might have an absolute affront to the meteor, an affront to God for a home. his property is called like the wizard, like a wizard tower or something like that, and it looks like one.
It's called the Wizard Tower of Scratty Bones.
Yes, exactly. And so it starts out like, we start out with really basic building materials, hewn logs and stuff. And we live in the middle of the forest, right on a river. We have as many logs as we could possibly. We're never going to run out of logs. So he starts out like this really basic, hewn log building, and very quickly, before anyone else, it gets a lot bigger. And that, he needs that space because you need a big space to use a lot of the tools that like the carpentry skills that he was learning need. Like you have to house those in certain kinds of buildings. But you could tell that like it's starting to go a little bit beyond that point. And then the next day you log in and it is 7 stories high. It bends in like multiple directions, like it's like skinny at the bottom, and then it like bends off like a Baroque monstrosity. It is just this horrifying specter on the horizon, and this is where he lives. And he's using and he had you like there's a finite like yes, trees will grow back, but over the course of the game, like you can only possibly grow so many trees in a 30-day period. The meteor's going to hit us in 30 real world days, or like whether we're ready for it or not. So theoretically, there is a finite number of trees that we could possibly have. So every tree he uses to build his house is taking trees out of the world. Now, yes, he has to get more skill points because everyone needs more skill points so we can be prepared for the next skill. Those things get exponentially more expensive. But at the same time, everyone else has like 1-story, like little flats with like 4 rooms. They're getting like 20 skill points a day from their home.
Except
and you look at him,
Dr. Evil over
Here's
here.
the best part. Here's the absolute best part. So you walk to the end of our village, and I'm at the opposite end of where the main village is. So
he's on the far end.
I'm on the far end. I went over there because I was like, I'm gonna build over here and make something ridiculous. But you walk over and you see this massive tower. And then there's a floating ring, because it works like Minecraft, like dirt and sand and stuff like that will fall with gravity, but crafted materials stay. So I've just got this floating ring around this tower, and then coming off of that ring are these spires that bend and jut at weird angles, and inside those spires are rooms basically the same size that everybody else has, but it's made out of the really good materials, and I've got a lot of furniture because I make the furniture.
Which multiplies those skill points you get each day. And yes, furniture is one of the ways to improve your environment, and he's the one in control of all that right now.
So if you took all the rooms that are actually giving me the skill points, I could fit it into a tiny little 1-story, like 5x5 house. But it's 7 stories tall, and it's like 20 blocks long, and there's a massive ring around it. And I named it. I called it. So if you look at the deed, it's called the Wizard Tower of Scratty Bones. But I'm just telling everybody that it's a modern art piece called Asymmetrical Warfare, and then all feeds into the fact that I'm.
Look how happy he is explaining
it's like
his domain.
You stand on the ground and you look up at this thing, and it, like the version of the game we've been playing is like a beta of a beta. So sometimes things like load in real slow because they hadn't done the performance optimization yet.
Oh God,
and you just see chunks of it loading in, like one layer after another, and then like all of a sudden it's like the walls appear, and then he's got these stuffed elk statues sitting on the outside of like just like these horrendous decorations that are really actually quite scary when they're 400 feet in the air. It's really quite powerful imagery.
Here's the 2 best parts about that. So they're literally full-size stuffed elk. They weren't in the game before, so nobody knew that they existed, and I found them, and I was like, I'm the tailor, so I'm going to make those. They give like 10 points to a room.
Yes.
And I don't even have
you got to get me some more of those things.
I don't even have them in a room. They are on the outside of my house. And people are walking up, and I'm standing on the roof of this thing, yelling at people as they walk past. And they're looking up and they're going, how did you get those to stand out there? And I'm just like, no, I killed them and took their insides out and filled them with straw. And now that's where they live. Just shit like that.
But here's the thing. So Scratty is playing really selfishly, but he's still contributing to our group, because when we want something, he's got all the abilities to make these things, and it's not like he's hoarding those things. If you bring him wood and some stuff he needs to make cloth or whatever, he will build you those things. He will stuff those things for you, because he's not playing like selfishly and like, oh, I'm going to be Scrooge. He's playing selfishly as like, I'm going to have the best home, but I'm going to, like, when people need stuff, I'm going to, be there for him. He's still going to be part of the group. And that has enabled all of us to really improve our homes. We all are getting a ton of skill points from our homes now. And so it's like this really, like, it feeds back into, like, if you are able to take someone who's playing selfishly and sort of position their behaviors in a way that it still like feeds back into the group, you're going to be fine. It doesn't matter that they're playing selfishly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's like, so it's like, and it creates these scenarios nonstop in every way you can think about. And the reason this whole game works is because it is work. It is labor. Putting hours into like digging out a mine. It's not like Minecraft. It's not like you hit a block, you put that block in your pocket, you hit the block, you put that in your pocket. You do that 1,000 times, and all those blocks are in your pocket. That's not how it works. You can carry 20 blocks in your hand at once. If you have a cart, you can carry like 100 iron ore and maybe like 240 stone. These things have weight values, and they also take up space. So that's like the two factors. So clearing out a mine, and it's like when you break the blocks, the rocks fall on the ground. You have to pick them up one at a time. Clearing out a mine requires just going back and forth and doing the work to take these stones to the surface, or setting up stockpiles to put all them in like one neat space. But either way, it's a lot of work, and
it's super easy to screw people over. Like what happened to Rinder? He's got a mine. Somebody filled it with like toxic runoff from iron smelting and just put it in his mine, and so he can't get anything done because he can't touch the stuff, and he wasn't able to figure out who did it. He's like, I can't do any of the mining. I can't get us any more iron right now because it's just filled with the shit.
Yeah, and it's like, so you really have to control like who has authorization on your property and stuff like that. And if you're working with a group, you want to make sure you trust everyone in that group. But yeah, it's like, and so when you turn out like a game into labor, and people are very invested in the things that they're doing, because it's like, it's not just like, oh, I built this thing. It is like, no, I worked on that. I put like blood and sweat and tears into making these things. That becomes a very different thing, where it's like people get very emotional very quickly about everything that happens in this game, myself included, everyone. So when you do something that might upset someone's idea of like, okay, I'm building this mine so I can have iron, so I can have some iron tools, and I can trade those things to other people. And that's my plan. It's going to work out just fine. That makes a lot of sense. And then you find out that like, actually, no, someone's trying to pass a law that is going to make it so only they have the tools to smelt iron, and everyone else is going to be like shit out of luck unless you work with them and find some way to either leverage using their blast furnace, or you get someone else, like the one person who can make a blast furnace, you get them to do it. And then people are like, wait, why are we doing this? And like the reasoning might be, oh, well, smelting iron creates these toxic tailings that we have to deal with. And if you aren't like using a blast furnace, you're doing it very inefficiently, and you're creating a ton of tailings, and it's going to pollute everything. It's going to destroy our ecosystem. It's going to destroy the plants and the wildlife. And if you put it in the ocean, it'll completely upset the acidity of the ocean. Honestly, you're just too irresponsible to have this power. So just let me do it. And that's the reasoning. But really, I mean, what's the subtext there? No, the person there wants to control the flow of iron. They want to be the person that has that, so that they don't have to go out and make deals. People have to come to them to make deals and say, hey, I have this thing. Can I please get some iron? And people are like, well, that sucks. And so people try to like fight back with that law. And if you want to pass a law, you have to actually like really get out there and get on the ground, talk to people. I mean, Scratty, like I believe you're the reason that Henry Mark V, our robot, who, long story short, he's a robot. People just accept that. He's Scratty. I think you're the one that like bribed a couple of people to make sure that he actually ended up becoming president, right?
He was going to lose the first election that he ran in to one of the Waypoint people, and he was down like 11 votes or something like that. And to give you an idea of how big a deal that is, though, as far as we can tell, the Waypoint community is just bigger than our community. So we would need every single person in our community to vote, and then a bunch of them to either vote for us or not vote at all. And so I was just like bribing, cajoling people into voting for Henry, and he won the first election with like 2 votes. Wow. And then somebody immediately, because as soon as the election is over, you can start another one. Unless you pass a law preventing it.
Yeah, he passed a law to prevent any future elections called emergency powers. And
made it pass.
And he had Scratty bribed that to make that happen. And woo, people were not happy about that. And again, because like, well, first of all, I mean, it's like some people were just like didn't like the idea of like a dictatorship joke. But it's like within the game, it's like you kind of like there are reasons why you wouldn't want to be like, I just got elected and I want to have this power for a while. And the democratic process is still very powerful in this game. Even if someone is the world leader, you can always pass more laws by a popular vote. There's no way to really stop that. So if people want to like repeal that law, that power is still available to them. But still, people are like, this actually makes me uncomfortable. And some people left the game. Other people, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, which leads into the whole meta level of the game that our group is playing. So we've played this. Like, a lot of the people in our group were the people that played when we played this last year. And so like there's some new stuff, but we have a general idea of exactly what we're going to do. And we know how to work together for the most part. And so we're basically on a meta level playing the bad guys. Like, we are the bad guys. Like, you've got people like me who are, you know, crazy meteor worshipping cultists who want the meteor to hit and want to make sure that nobody can do whatever they're going to do. And, you know, if that means limiting resources, if that means passing laws, like if that means building churches in the desert right outside Waypoint so that every time they come out into the desert to collect things, they see a massive church to the meteor. That's what's going to happen.
And that exists. And that's Scranny and I have nothing to do with that church. Other people in our group just decide that's how they want to spend their time. And you know, I think we're prone to that because, I mean, the other groups are playing very congealed. They are very close, and they're very strict on what they want to do. They are very strict communists. They are, when shops are broken in the game right now, beta of a beta. But when shops start working, they're not going to suddenly become like, oh, we're going to have 1 million shops. They're going to have one shop to trade with us a little bit, and that's it, in their Waypoint special economic zone. But we have plans in place. We have like long-term plans for how we're going to use capitalism to sort of force people to get on our currency that we're going to mint. We have all these things in place ready to go.
This is a fascinating look at this is like a whole socioeconomics course at a university. Like,
it's even more. No, it is. I've learned way more playing this game about people, about economics, about group dynamics than I think I ever would have learned reading books, let alone being in a class. Like, it's just like, you get to experience it in a way that's like, you can't really just sort of fake this stuff in the real world. You can't be like, okay, I'm going to throw people into a micro economy and see how they behave in this classroom or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. You have to sort of make it into a game. You have to sort of make the gameplay actual labor, or else people won't value anything. It's also, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, games are this magical thing. This is only possible in video games, but this feels like maybe it's only possible in video games. And the lessons I'm learning are just, it's really kind of mind blowing. And one of the reasons I want to do this is because I wanted to see what those group dynamics would be. And it's like, okay, clearly we're running headfirst into these things over and over and over again. We have a sort of a shaky truce at this point where people are like, I'm actually just sick of drama, want to put this stuff behind us. So we accept that you guys are kind of assholes to us, basically. And so we're just going to keep doing our thing and try to like avoid you where we can. And that's like a viable strategy. And like, that's the way people deal with a lot of real life assholes. And it's like, okay, yeah, you guys should definitely be doing that. That makes a lot of sense for the way you want to play. So but then that pushes us, right? We were like, okay, so how can we force people to use our currency if they are dedicated to being communists? It's like, well, eventually, what if we controlled all the oil in the world?
What if we on the very first day pooled our land claims instead of claiming massive plots of land for our houses, and then went out into the world using the in-game tools and found all the oil and then land claim those, so that once they get to oil and go looking for it, they can't build anything.
And we're like,
money.
Oh, we're all pretty far away from like actively being able to use oil. We're like, the plans are in the works to like make the first oil drills and stuff. But even once that happens, it's going to be very hard to have like a lot of powered carts and then trucks and stuff that people will be using. That stuff's pretty far away still.
Yeah, we're about a week. Wait till you see what I do to the Wizard Tower once we can drive vehicles.
Yeah, okay, yeah, see, exactly. Yeah, I can't wait to see this shit.
A line that I never thought I'd hear. Wait till you see what I do to the Wizard Tower when we can start to drive vehicles.
So it's like, yeah, so like we're not going to be ignored. And then it's like, that's going to create more drama. And then we're going to have to figure out ways to like work past that and be like, you know what, we are being kind of assholes. How can we sort of reach a middle ground? And it's like, you know, being assholes is in our benefit here because, you know, we're going to go out and control the oil. And once they control the oil, they will have to come to us. It's like, and that's less work for us. The game becomes less work when you put in the effort to make sure people have to come to you. And and figuring out what you have to do to position the world so that people have to come to you is like this it's really tough. It's hard, and maybe it's more work on the front end than it's actually going to be worth on the back end. But like we're still working towards that. That's in our head. That's the fantasy in our head. Whether or not it works out that way, who knows? But it's beside the point, because in the end, we are still all sort of putting the resources towards this, what will be the ultimate goal of defeating the meteor. Like, us being assholes is still feeding into that loop in a really tangible way. But it's an incredible game.
The most interesting part, the part that I had not expected at all, but the part that has really interested me this time around is the fact that, like Jeff mentioned, that there are like culture clashes happening because we actually have different groups of people, and those are sort of spilling out of the game a little bit, but people are like owning up to the dumb shit that we've done. I'm not going to name any names here on any side, right. But there have been issues, and they've spilled out, like, you know, for a lot of us, a lot of like the dickishness and like the jokes and stuff like that, they're in the game. But something I didn't really expect, given that all of the communities playing are gaming communities, is that we don't all think the same way at all. And like
very, very differently. Yes.
And so, like,
and a lot of this just comes down to the makeup of the groups. Like, we're like, I mean, to be honest, our group is a lot of white guys. Like, it just is. Yeah. The Waypoint group is not. Like, they're very diverse relative to us, especially. So, you know, I think a lot of us consider ourselves relatively woke, and they would be like, yeah, you're woke, and then woke in the bad way, like we're fucking centrist or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I get that, because we rarely push each other to be better, because we all are sort of comfortable with the way the other white guys in the group are. But when that becomes a problem for another group in your game, it's like, oh, okay, you know, actually, I have to step up. I have to step up now. Ask someone to be better, and that person, and like the people that like when we do cross those lines, and it's not like they haven't crossed lines either. They have. I think we've probably been a little bit worse for sure. But yes, we have for sure. But when we have, it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to take responsibility for this, and we're going to figure this out. And this is like all happening on the meta layer. It's not happening in the game. You know, we are putting signs in the game that have been aggressive and have hurt people a little bit. And that's the thing. Like, okay, yeah, we need to like just talk this out and just be better and actually challenge ourselves. All they have to do is say, this hurt us, and then we have to take it from there. And we have been, which has been really nice.
What happens if there is like a rogue faction, like a group of folks that just decide to be chaos?
So we've set up channels in one of the shared discords that are specifically there to deal with out of game issues.
You know, or even just like random disagreements about like actual in game you know, things as well. So yeah.
Like, they weren't there when we started because, like I had said before, like, I don't think many of us expected stuff like this was going to happen. But they're there now, and if there were some kind of rogue faction, we'd all talk about it at first. It'd be a little heated, and if all 3 or 4 communities, however many there are, said these aren't our people, then we would probably ask the devs to step in and just kick them out of the game.
Yeah, wow. if it became like a real problem, you know, there is always the legal system in the game, but like what we found out early is that you don't want to like use the legal system to target like a one person for being like for behaving in a way that you don't agree with. You want to like legislate behaviors, not people, because that feels like very targeted and makes people feel uncomfortable. Like, oh, am I going to be at risk of being called out? And like, there's a comment section under every law, and people were like, this, you know, this person comes into our wooden village and builds a store when we have all decided we're not going to use stores yet. And then he's like, even before Scratty, this person just immediately, first day, built a huge tower in the middle of the woods. And we're like, hey man, we need every log we can get right now. We're trying to like get everyone to a good level. And he's like getting 45 skill points a day, and everyone else is getting 5. And so we're like, fuck. And then we look at his like record, like everyone has a reputation, and the one positive reputation came from one person at Waypoint. So we assume, incorrectly, I'll say, we assume that this person is an agitator, an agitator that has been sent to mess with us, and we just assume like this is trolling. And so here's what we're going to do: this person can't play the game anymore. That's a law. Like, we're going to pass that law. They can't do anything. And that person's like, and we all gave him a really bad reputation. And then the person gets me on Discord like a day later after I think they came back online and saw all this shit happened. Like, wow, I love this game, and I contacted you on Twitter and asked if I could play. I didn't know I love Eco all the time. I've never gotten negative reputation before. And I'm like, oh fuck. Oh no. we've just like demolished this like lone person that just wanted to come and have a good time, and like it doesn't know anyone, and is just completely being ostracized by our group. And unsurprisingly, that this person who is very good at eco has been helping the other group ever since then. So it's like we're paying for our crimes. But yeah, I don't know. I could talk about the game forever. Clearly, I
logged in one day because I logged in from work to check on stuff. I logged in one day. When I log out, I'm standing on top of my tower, and I logged in one day, and then I turned around to do something, and this person was standing right there. And I was just like, what the fuck? And they were just like, in the general chat in the game, they're just like, nice. And then they left.
So a couple things. One is you two have to put a weekly podcast about this big eco game
I could come back on next with you guys. Just we can do updates and stuff. We could do this each week until it's over.
Sure. How long is it supposed to? Is it like a season or
so
when does the meteor crash?
30 real world days from when we started is when the meteor is going to hit us. The game will continue after the meteor hits us, or if it doesn't. But it's like that's the end goal for us. We have been playing for I think 7 days, going on 8, or maybe 6 going on 7. One of those. It says like 21 days and a couple hours left before the meteor hits.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is this. This needs to be documented somehow, and by that I mean you read for Andrew's the Eve Online book, right?
Yes,
A history of Eve. This seems like it could, to me, as someone who's maybe really interested in this kind of stuff. This feels like there's a story behind like every little action, the way you guys are explaining things, how you're learning, how people are interacting with each other. This situation of, by the way, Dr. Jones says Jeff Grubb still has -10 rep to the person he's talking about.
I actually don't know how to take that away. I need to figure that out. I think I probably have to give him 10 positive rep today. I'll do that.
But it really seems it seems super interesting, and again, this could go towards helping people A, get into the game, obviously, but B, start to understand how these processes relate to real world. Because I'd love to see post this experience. I mean, hopefully somebody's taking notes as these little incidents are popping up.
If you go on Twitter, there are a lot.
We have a hashtag.
We have a hashtag.
Okay. All right,
hashtag
cool.
TBEG.
The big eco game, TBEG. Hashtag TBEG.
You couldn't get teabag, you got teabag.
We're the teabaggers. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You can find people who are doing like little looks into the communities. Like there's a screenshot thread from one of the Waypoint people who are showing
fantastic
town and a bunch of their signs and like.
And the Waypoint forums is going to have a bunch of pictures from someone who's like playing a photojournalist basically and going around just taking pictures of everything.
Brilliant.
And going to document that. A lot of people are Twitch streaming it. I think they are also using the hashtag TBEG. But if you just look at eco, you're going to see the people who are playing. Most of the people playing are going to be from our group, especially like late at night. And then my plan was to like do regular diary updates, but then I had a kid and I'm on paternity leave, so it's a little bit harder. But
yeah, I
plan to still do some of those updates for sure.
We were, I want to say, 36 hours into this game, and our community had like full on plans, and we all specialized in stuff. And Jeff specialized in smelting, and then he comes into the Discord one day, like 36 hours into the game, like just as we're getting to the point where we need it, like him bad, and he goes, "My wife's having a kid. I gotta go."
Yep. I'm just like, nothing I could do. Yeah. And again, like the games work. So if someone else wants to get to that point, it's not like they could just like drop everything and go do it. Like, well, they would have to drop everything because they would have to start putting all their effort towards that instead. And it's like
we had just spent our points. Like, so it takes time to accrue your next talent point into doing something like smithing. So we had just all specialized, and then all of a sudden, like Jeff had to go, and so now we have like a splinter group.
We have a splinter group to the south, and one of those guys, Dr. Jones, actually, he was a smith, but like he's far enough away that it becomes like this really big issue. It's not like there's no fast travel. You have to take your goddamn cart over to him filled with like 100 iron ore and hope that's enough to do something. And so it becomes this like barrier to success, so like to progression, and those barriers are just everywhere. They every day you'll discover a new reason why you can't get to the next thing, because like, oh, I gotta do that first. I gotta get these trees out of the way. I gotta I'm out of food. I gotta go get better food because I can't work right now. And we have overcome a lot of those challenges, but there's always more. There's always more issues. And
when I was building my tower. So for the tier 2 materials, you turn logs into lumber. And
instead of hewn logs, yeah.
Our lumber guy is on one side of town. I'm on the other side of town. And so normally it would be like, all right, I'll have to cut some logs down and take them to this guy, and he'll turn them into lumber, and I'll cart them back. The problem is in this beta, when you pass over the world boundary from like coordinate wise 1400 to 0, there's a divide by 0 error, and you get into the sky and your cart vanishes.
Yeah,
so we called it the 0 point. And we had signs up for a while that just said, beware pulling carts over this point.
But it wasn't good enough. People were just, it's still like you would lose a lot of carts.
You would just lose carts.
We built the 0 point station.
Yeah. So they're literally like
pillar barriers.
Pillar barriers, like just blocking it off. And there's a stockpile there, and you have to transfer to the stockpile and then pick up the cart and then cross over the barrier and then put the cart down and then pick the stuff up. And that just adds time. Like, so,
and all time matters, because it's like that is time you could be putting into something else to accomplish something else. And it's not like I'll make that up somewhere else. It's like, no, it just takes away from the amount of minutes you could spend that day doing something productive. It is productivity. And people
are trying to do you guys play?
I mean, so I didn't play for like all weekend because I was at the hospital. But since I've been back, I get my family to bed. And I can't sleep anyhow because the baby's going to be up every 2 hours. My wife needs help with that, and I got the older sister now moving to another room. So I'm like, I'm going to be up all night. I'm just going to play all night, and I've played like 5-6 hours, just like starting at like 10:30 p.m. So I just go, and it's like I feel like that's maybe just enough to kind of keep up with things. But we're not as a group, we're not keeping up. We just got cement. Someone just specialized in cement. I made them the cement kiln that they need to make it. But now they need to put it in a tier 2 building. Their building is way up north across that bridge I made on the first day. And the person that's closest to them to get them tier 2 material wasn't logging in. So we had to start bringing lumber up to them. And who knows? I don't know. I haven't been on today to see if they've got their cement operation up and going. But in the meantime, the Waypoint group has someone who is already level 7 and in cement, is making cement. I'm pretty sure cement is a tier 3 material. So now they're going to start getting many more skill points per day if they start making their homes out of it. They're going to be able to use tier 3 workbenches and stuff like that. So it's like, that makes you uncomfortable almost to look, and like everything that happens in the game is in this chat window on the side that's just logs everything that's happening. It says, Engineer Julia just put 500 stone into the cement project, and they're going to have the cement in so many minutes. And so you see all this stuff that's happening, and it's like this curse of knowledge where you're just like, oh fuck, okay, what do I have to do to make sure that we can kind of keep up with them on that stuff? And it's anxiety inducing, but it's like this. That's what propels people forward.
Seeing
it's
somebody
very
else's
satisfying.
Achievements, and you're like, oh,
and it's like and again, like all the work you're putting into it, you don't want that work to become obsolete. You don't want to be the thing that you've been working on to suddenly not be needed by anyone, because then like it was all a waste of time, and that's really scary and frustrating.
We tapped into one of our guys. We got to day 3, and so most of us had started earning our second specialization point, or we got to day 5 and we're getting our third or something like that. One of the skills in the game is paper milling. Paper milling is a super useless skill. You need it to make like bookcases and like one other thing later on. I did learn tonight we can use paper as our to mint our currency, so we can have paper currency. So maybe we should do that, because you can't unlearn stuff, and that might be a good use for them. But keep going. But we don't know that yet. Yeah. So he and I were the 2 woodworkers, and I was one of the tailors, and he was one of the woodworkers. So we have really good houses. So we were the first 2 people to get our next skill points. And I said, am I going to take the hit and go paper milling? I'll do it because it doesn't matter to me. You're central to town, like you've got a big workshop. It might be better if you take a better skill. And he said, no, I'll just do it right now, and then we can get the stuff done. So he took it, and then it was not 20 minutes later that he had a few thousand stacks of paper, and we didn't need it anymore. And his stockpiles are just filling up with wood pulp, because he's the sawmill guy. So he's generating wood pulp, which is what paper becomes, but he doesn't need the paper anymore. So why would you turn it into that? And it's just like, that's rough. You should let me take that hit, bro.
And that's like all the skill points you're getting from days of having good nutrition and a good home, and you're waiting for that next skill point for a long time, and you want to use it wisely, and to have something like go south on you that fast, again, it's just, it feels bad. But avoiding those things and like properly speccing and like successfully building yourself into a character who is important in this world, that is an important cog to the machine of everything working of this economy. Yeah. To throw yourself into the gears. That feels good. It does. It feels good to be important, to be needed.
Speaking of Izul in chat, Izul is our researcher. They're the one we give the stuff to make the skill books that we spend our points on. They just said both other groups in the game came to me in Discord for the mechanics skill book because we had that super early.
Yep, and the other groups are like, they want that stuff, but they haven't made a lot of like really great proposals about trades. And it's all, you also don't want to be a super dick about that stuff because you get it. People want to like start working towards other stuff, and overall progress could be helpful. But also, like, we want to establish early, like, you got to trade with us if you want the stuff that we've worked towards. And it's like we haven't, and I think that's going to come back to bite us, especially once we get the thing we're working on right now is electronics. We need 36 more gold ore. And I'll be able to make 18 gold bars to put it in that goddamn skill book, and we'll have that skill book. And I'm speccing towards electronics. And again, they're going to see that pop up on the log window. Jeff Grubb learned electronics. The skill book exists in the world now, and they're not going to like. I don't think any of them are anywhere near having the resources they need to make that book. They're going to be like, we need that, and you have given us this stuff in the past. You're just going to give us this, right? And maybe not. Maybe now this is the time to say we're going to put our foot down and say, "What do you got?" Like I have asked these people for gold to help me finish this book. They haven't provided any. So what are we doing here? And it's like, okay, this might be like this might be a situation where it's time to like behave diplomatically, but also coldly, and say, live up to your side of the bargain if you actually want us to give you these things. So
and all this has happened in like the first 7 days of
Yeah, for real. It's unbelievable. And your comparison to Eve earlier is spot on. It is where Eve is very much a macro thing with a lot of micro politicking. This is all micro. And there's very few, like there's some macro elements, like inflation is a thing with the currency. That's a thing you have to consider, but the game's going to be over in 30 days. So if like the currency gets super inflated, it's a problem for a day, but it's not a problem for a long time. You just adjust, and people can adjust their prices really fast. But for the most part, it is these microeconomic, personality clashing situations that you could just deal with. And I don't know. A lot of great stories come out of it. It's been fun. I'm going to go, though. So this is the end of the Games with Stats podcast, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Yeah, bye. I'm just playing all my sound effects here. All right, I'm hanging up.
I got to get one stream deck.
I got one that's sitting over here. I haven't hooked it up yet, but oh man, yeah. Hi, Sam.
oh, hey guys. How's it been going?
Man, you've been to the Echo Hour.
I tried to connect, and then my computer just took over, and it was just Jeff Grubb guy that was Grubb here the whole time. I was trying to scream to you guys, and you just couldn't hear me.
You're screaming into the void. No, it was good to have Jeff on because when Aaron told us a few weeks back that this was going to happen, and it just sounded super intriguing. I mean, they're trying to build this thing up. I know they're trying to get codes to a few folks, and I think a couple of us
happened.
Yeah,
that happened, and that actually caused a tiny amount of drama too. Because
there you go. Yeah,
the codes came with an in-game top hat, just a cosmetic item, and all of us who had bought the game originally did not get that top hat.
Oh no!
So it's
no.
You piece of shit.
There's elitism. But yeah, so we went through that. I think it's such a fascinating exploration into just what makes societies tick and how people have their specific place and their specific task, but how it all works together.
It's kind of interesting actually listening to Jeff talk about all that because I have started this game. I am in this big game also.
Are you? Okay.
I also had some family things pop up this weekend, so I didn't really get time. I was building my house on the first day and slipped and have been unconscious the whole time, just laying in my half-built shack as the world has moved around me, and no one's checked on me yet. But luckily for me, I've been seeing little glimpses. It's like the guards are talking outside of my cell and letting me know how to escape the dungeon. So I've been learning a little bit from both Aaron and like the different Discord of what's been going on in the world and some of the drama and some of the things. But basically, I'm going to start playing tomorrow, I think, is when I actually have time to like start investing and actually getting involved. But I feel like I'm going to be a toddler in an adult's world. And all these institutions have grown around me as I'm like still digging my dirt home.
You went to bed in the 18th century and woke up in the 20th.
I know. I mean, in all honesty, you guys were talking about concrete. Like everybody's home was just wood. And when I built my home, Aaron was like, build it across the river though, so we can build like a friendship bridge. And I was like, yes, friendship bridge. And then I couldn't play for a day. Came back and was like, okay, I can work on my house for a little bit. And I come back and Friendship Bridge is built. And I can see the beginnings of what would become Wizard Tower across my landscape. And then I was like, okay, that's cool. Checked on some other things. I saw Tom's shack. I don't know if Tom has invested time and effort.
Tom and Sam both joined at the same time. And I built over at the far end of our village. Tom built to one side of me, and then at like a 90-degree angle across the river with a little bridge is Sam. So both of them will log in and look up and see this massive fucking
So SideQuesting's Church to the Moon will be going up somewhere in there.
So brilliant. Yeah, we'll have to do this weekly just to kind of give updates for what's happening in the big eco game. But anyways, a couple other things that something that I've been playing. Have you been playing anything else besides Eco and My Time in Porsche or Portia?
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
I'll get real quickly what I've been playing, and then Sam will touch on what you've been playing. I finished Starlink, and I mentioned that was a solid 7 game, and it's definitely a solid 7 because it's the most repetitive game I've played in a long time. And boy, that ends badly. Sam, did you beat that game?
Yeah.
Well, that ends poorly.
What do you consider beating it? Because I have not, like, what I assume is 100%ed the game and saved all of the planets.
Oh, I've saved all the planets. I went crazy OP in that game. Saved all the planets, defeated all the dreadnoughts, and then I went after Graz or Gaz or whatever his name is. And I obliterated him at the very. I mean, it was so easy to just.
Yeah, that final fight is easier than any of the space pirate fights, I'd say.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. It's easier than the first time you meet those living extractors that walk around and blow the crap out of you. Then you realize you just fly up to them and attack them. Very unpolished from a gameplay. From like a tactical and strategy side in this game. I mean, once you figure out how to beat it, once you figure out how to get how things work in Starlink, I mean, it's easy. It's just going through the motions of getting it done. So
yeah, it's basically like they built one of those planets and then copied all the like mission objectives and just pasted them onto a new planet.
I think that's all they did, and they have like 6 planets, and they're all exactly the same. They have them listed in like the difficult sector and the easy sector, but they're all the same. It does none of that actually matters.
It's just numbers and damage percentages.
Yeah, and it was on sale last week for like $17 on like one of the days on a Best Buy deal. I think that's probably the right price for this game. Unfortunately, the figurine is great. I told people you don't have to buy the game, just get the figurine because I bought this this dude who's kind of badass looking. If anything, I got this and I got the Star Fox ship for pennies. It feels like it now, but totally worth it, at least for the figures. So yeah, I completed that. Started playing Travis Strikes Again, the kind of the next game in the No More Heroes series on the Switch, which is it controls like all the previous No More Heroes games, which is Travis Touchdown is the hero, and he's got this lightsaber and he goes around smacking, chopping people up. It's very basic combat, but it's kind of done from an overhead perspective this time, and he's sucked into a game console, taking on Bad Man, who's one of the other, who's related to somebody that you kill in, like, I think No More Heroes 2. And you go through all these games. It's all overhead view, at least from what I found so far. And there's some cosmetic changes through each of these different levels / games that you play. But there's no like real hook in the game yet, and I'm kind of finding it to be, I don't want to say overly repetitive, but it's not super fun yet, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to say it. so I don't know. It's not biting me yet. So I've been playing through that, and then last but not least, I've gotten into. All right, you ready? I had to reach over while Aaron was talking to get these bad boys. I got the first set of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Those old school Choose Your Own Adventure books. I've been reading these bad boys because there's the box of first 4 has 150 possible endings, and my whole goal in these, I don't know what it was. I think I was at the bookstore and I just happened to see one of these things lying around, and I picked it up. I'm like, well, I remember these. My goal went from completing these and trying to get to the ending of these books. So you guys remember what these were like? These chapter books, right? Yeah. I think everybody remembers. To how fast can I die in these games? And I think now I'm like 2 moves in the Abominable Snowman, which is the first one, into death, and then there's like Space and Beyond, Journey Under the Sea, and the Lost Jewels of NWO'ed. So my goal is to find out how fast I can die in each of these games. I think in each of these books, I think it's kind of interesting. But I was going to do a podcast where I read parts of the book, and you guys have to talk amongst yourselves and figure out the best course of action and move on. And I will let you know if you survived or not. But man, this company, you can hardly even say the words Choose Your Own Adventure before. ChooseCo is the name of this company. They come flying after you for.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago for something, didn't we?
Yeah, it was for. Was it for Bandersnatch?
Yeah,
yeah.
They were suing Netflix.
Yeah, so because they straight up mentioned choose your own adventure in that movie. But whatever, it's a cool. I mean, they're still interesting books, and they haven't really made quite a comeback yet. But I'm hoping they will. Like every year, you'll get like 1 or 2 other companies doing these types of books. But I am hoping that they get back because they are they're the original adventure games. Like for me, at least.
Did I tell you guys what I did early last week? We didn't record last week, right?
Correct.
So
we recorded the week before.
I got a late Christmas present arrived in the mail, and it was $150 in Amazon gift certificate.
Nice.
So I redeemed them, and they were just sitting on my account. And then early last week, I had a couple drinks. I was working on something else, and I was having a couple of drinks, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up the next day and got to work, and I checked my email, and it said, your Amazon order is shipped. And I went, oh, fuck. What did I do? So I go in and I check, and what I did was I spent $145 of the $150. I ordered the D&D 5th edition monster manual.
Okay.
I ordered D&D Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes.
Okay.
I ordered Volo's Guide to Monsters, which are all basically monster manuals, just of different flavors for D&D. And then I also ordered How to Invent Everything, a survival guide for the stranded time traveler.
That actually sounds pretty badass.
I'm actually legitimately excited to get my hands on these, but yeah,
if you're a time traveler, you can yeah. Well, good choice. I think you still got $5 left to spend, so you can get a Choose Your Own Adventure book. Anyways, that's what I've been playing this week. Sam, what have you been playing?
Not too much. My brother was visiting, so we played a lot of Smash, which I'll take this time on the podcast because Gan's not going to do anything to call me out and say that his shit's weak. But it's not. Actually, I haven't played him in forever. He has a trainer now, though. I'd like to mention.
Really?
Apparently from the Discord or his Twitter or Facebook, I forget which I read it on, but that guy's got somebody training him in the arts of Smash now, apparently.
Wow.
Thinks he's a real pro over there.
He's got 285 hours, which we worked it out to. He's played for 11 and a quarter straight days, or almost 12 straight days of Smash in the 54 days that it's been released,
out
or about 5.5 hours a day.
Yeah, he's working it.
Yeah, he is.
But I mean, I'd like to play him again. I don't have a personal trainer, is what I'm gonna say. So if I lose, that's fine, I guess. No, I'm sure he's doing just fine, and he's not bad. So we'll have to figure that out. But man, Smash is still so good. They We actually tried out that mode. I think they call it Smashdown, which
yes,
is
that's
a questionable mode name.
Yeah.
But yeah, where you go through the entire roster and
fun.
fight it
I
out.
like it. Yeah.
And my brother and I have been playing Smash since the beginning, so it's a nice way of doing that. We also tried the like 3v3, 5v5. I don't remember what that mode's called. And that's cool. That's like Tekken Tag 2, if you ever played that with those characters. But last night, I didn't get a real chance to try it out, but I played a match or two with him. Piranha Plant,
yeah, buddy,
came out. And man, is he goofy to play around with. I'm wrong. I thought he was going to be a gadget character along with like things like Snake or Isabelle and like Villager and stuff like that.
No.
And he sort of is. He does have that one where he spawns the ball, but no, he's a much more like physical, like mid-range character kind of, because he's got weird movement abilities that no one else has, I guess. Where he can kind of just elongate himself and attack into the air, and you can weirdly tilt his pot like over to certain extents. He's gonna take time to learn for sure. And it's interesting that they like saved him as a DLC character, but not like a true DLC character.
Like a free DLC type of thing.
I feel like he must be such a pet project for that team, because he feels like such a different and weird character from everybody else that's in that roster. And I think that was just them kind of spitballing ideas and trying things out, and Piranha Plant came from it. But I can see how if you don't have Piranha Plant in your game, you're probably not missing much. But for those that kind of want a character that doesn't really play like anybody else, Piranha Plant's definitely that guy or girl plant.
It's definitely that thing. Interesting. Yeah, I'm starting to pick back up into Smash only because I've been so sucked into, I was finishing up Pokemon Let's Go and then finishing up Starlink, and I think I got into Octopath a little bit, and now Travis Strikes Again. But I think it's time for me to hop back into Smash. I've been away from it for a couple weeks, so yeah. And I'm gonna, even though they just released Piranha Plant, we know Joker is the first of the new games, of the new characters that's been announced, of the new 5. I'm gonna assume that he's not that far off. Like, I could see them legitimately pumping a character out every month and a half.
I wouldn't be shocked if he gets released at PAX East, because they have that tournament going on.
That's true. The finals are
at PAX East. So in my mind, at least, I see like setting up for the finals. Hey, here's a trailer of Joker, in Smash. Oh, by the way, Joker's available now. That's, in my mind, that's what you would do. It's Nintendo, so they could release him 2 o'clock the day before for absolutely no reason. So who knows? But I would think, in my mind, that's the perfect timing for that.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. They have when did the tournament start? They're starting pretty soon, right? I think they're.
I believe the qualifying for it, your like regionals, is this weekend.
Okay.
I remember 1st through the 3rd, I want to say, and then PAX is the 28th of March.
Yep. Which side questing will be in many forms this year, so it'll be good. We may even have a couple panels out there, so stick tuned.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
Yeah, you're gonna watch us. You'll be there in spirit. We should have you on a panel, Aaron, or we literally just have you like FaceTime.
So, so it's funny you mentioned that. I once played in a D&D game that was a live setting, but they had me basically webcam in on a laptop that was set in a chair. It doesn't work. It doesn't work as well as you'd think it would. There's just slightly too much delay, and like the audio doesn't catch right. So,
good. Okay, so Smash Brothers. Anything else, or is that pretty much been all you've been?
No, I mean, we just kind of hopped around Steam games and stuff like that. I briefly tried the Anthem beta. But I was one of the people that got stuck in that infinite loading glitch. Was able to actually get into a game or two and try it out. I mean, it looks pretty. I think that game is going to live or die by its post-game content.
Yeah.
And, you know, studios can talk about and commit to however much stuff, but it's once you see what the audience is actually going to use that game or that service for is how you can kind of adapt that stuff. And for their sake, I hope they have enough to sustain that while they're figuring out what their players want. Because, I mean, we've seen even with Destiny 2, it always takes a while, but they get there. I don't think we've had one of these games come out and be life-sustaining enough where, like, people aren't begging for the first chunk of DLC or whatever to happen.
Sure.
So let's hope Anthem's that answer. I believe there's a public beta this weekend or next weekend for that. And on every platform that it will be available on.
I heard it was not as good as people had hoped.
I mean, I enjoyed what I played, but again, it's very limited to like 1 or 2 missions, and I didn't get to play I believe they're called javelins, the mechs. I did not get to play the type of javelin that I wanted to play. You just kind of got the default soldier one. I believe they're called Recon or Ranger. Just to try out in the beta, and apparently they unlocked all of the javelins or all the different javelin major types for people to try out at the end of that VIP beta, and hopefully they do that for the main one too, so people can try those out.
Very cool. Okay, well, let's move on to some news. Kind of close up this shop with all the breaking news from last week that we didn't get a chance to. Aaron, what do you have for us, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I've got a little bit of news. I'm going to be honest. I forgot we didn't record last week, so I've only basically got news from this week. Okay. And this week wasn't big on news, so I'll throw out what I got, and then if there's anything else.
Sure.
I think the big one for the week, might as well start with it, is the Metro stuff, right?
Yeah, this is interesting.
So it's a two-parter story. The first one is that Metro Exodus is going to be exclusive for 1 year to the Epic Store. That got announced, I think, Monday? Early this week, I think. And then the second part of that story is that all digital pre-orders that were Steam pre-orders, either through Steam itself or via Humble or Green Man Gaming or any of those sites, they're going to still be on Steam.
So weird.
And they're going to be fully supported on Steam. So like all future DLC and stuff like that.
So I'm assuming the game will be back on Steam eventually, right?
After a year, I assume. It's a year exclusivity, but
seems like Epic is throwing that Fortnite money around like crazy to lock up exclusives.
I think the most interesting part about this story isn't the fact that it's another exclusive on Epic. It's the fact that I think this is the first time Valve has come out and said something about it. So right before, this announcement happened. I want to say it was Monday. I probably have the day wrong, but you could still buy the game after the announcement for like a number of hours. And then there was a big text post on the Metro Exodus, like the very top of the page on Steam from Valve, that basically just like called them out and was like, "This isn't fair to Steam customers. You know, the pre-orders have been up forever." And so I think this is the first time I think Valve's kind of feeling the pressure a little bit, because this is what, the fourth quote unquote big game that this has happened to.
Yeah.
But yeah. Some other people I've seen on Twitter, and I think Giant Bomb talked about it, about how it just seems weird that they don't have a contract in place that, like, if your game goes live for pre-order on Steam, it has to stay on Steam. And I want to say Jeff Gerstmann made the point that, well, they've probably never needed that before, and that it will probably be a thing going forward. But yeah, so it's just it's weird. Like this whole thing.
It's pretty crazy. Yep.
Especially the fact that it's going to be fully supported on Steam. Like I understand people still getting the game, because like that's been a thing for a while. Like if a game gets delisted on Steam, if you own it, you can still play it and stuff like that. But the fact that it's going to be getting like all the new DLC and stuff like that on Steam when the game's not on sale on Steam, like how's that even going to work? But yeah. So there's that. Nvidia is having a real bad time of it. That's my second news story. Their quote said, the CEO's quote is saying that he warned of extraordinary, unusually turbulent, and disappointing Q4. because their new line of cars, the RTX 2080 and the TI 2080, just aren't selling. They blame people not needing them. He blamed the loss of interest in cryptocurrency because they've all switched off. And I only included this because I actually talked about this way back in the day when the prices on 1080s had gone through the roof because cryptocurrency was fucking with them. I had said, like, these guys are going to move on. They're going to find a way to do this cheaper, and they're going to liquidate all their cards, and then they're not going to need the next set of cards because they're going to figure out a different way to do this. They're going to bang on processor power or something like that instead of graphic power. And sure enough, that's basically what happened. And I was like, NVIDIA can't bank their business on these guys still buying their cards because, like, they are not the market. You know what I mean? Like, they're a bubble. And here we are, and they're not buying cards anymore, and now they're having a terrible quarter. It's like, well, you should have thought of that because everybody was saying that.
Yep.
And it doesn't help that fucking nothing supports their cards work, but like they're like ray tracing. I think one game supports that still, the Battlefield, and Battlefield didn't do great.
This is like buying an 8K TV when HD is still is finally getting into 1080p is still having troubles getting content.
I only this year, just in the last 12 months, not 2019, I only just got a 1080p television and only just got 1080p computer monitors.
Yep.
And then people are out here like, oh yeah, you got to get 4K. Oh yeah, you got to get OLED. You got to get UHD. And I'm just like, I don't give a shit about none of that. I just got 1080.
Yeah,
1080 looks awesome.
I can tell you, in even the sports broadcasting sector, 4K is not something that's right around the corner. That's something that we're talking about for 4 to 5 years from now, of like making sure that all of our stuff is in 4K. Sure, we're shooting stuff now in 4K in some like instances, but any broadcast that, I mean, now we're not NBC or CBS. I don't know about their plans, but from like a small like college regional webcast stuff, we're not, the people on the other end are not going to be able to receive 4K streams for quite some time. So the need for us to shoot web content in 4K is kind of non-existent.
I remember there's a streamer from here where I live. Basically, he lives in Halifax. His name is NWO'ed, and he's just got a mind for like all the different resolutions and like bit rates and stuff that streams would need, and he mathed it out. I don't remember the numbers he had last year, but he mathed it out last year for how much like bandwidth it would take to stream in 4K and how much bandwidth it would take to watch a stream in 4K, and then pointed out that most people in North America don't have data plans that would cover that for more than like a couple hours a month. Which just seems like the biggest limiting factor in 4K adoption. Like even 1080 streams are heavy, but yeah. So that's NVIDIA, and I mean I'm still rocking a 960. Like I don't even have a 1080 card yet. You know what I mean?
I don't even have any NVIDIA cards, so.
Well, and I think with that stuff too, it's hard to show a consumer that's not interested in the technical side of it what the difference is. Because even trying to walk my friend through like, oh yeah, look, the lighting is better on this. They're like, yeah, but the lighting before wasn't a huge issue. Like it still looked okay.
There was one demo that I saw, and it might have been from a GDC or something like that. But it was basically showing a shot on like normal cards and the next gen cards, like the RTX cards, and it was showing reflections of things that were off screen, and that seems like magic to me because like that's something I've always like, that's just a thing I've picked up on like very specifically. Like if something's not on screen, it's not being rendered, and so unless it's specifically tricked into reflecting, it's not going to reflect. It's a fake reflection that you're seeing, or it's not there at all because it's not something a player is ever expected to look at. And he was just showing like with these cards, they'll reflect things that are off screen because they're being rendered in world, even though they're off screen. Like that was the point of these cards. And it was just like, to me, I was like, I think I tweeted it actually Jeff about it. I was like, this looks like fucking magic. This looks like the first time I saw 3D after growing up with 2D consoles. Right. Like I haven't felt that. I haven't felt this since that. But even then, like I can't. Like that's a lot of money, man. Like I could buy one of those cards, and it would take months of saving, and then I don't even have a computer I can put it in. So it's like the adoption for these cards is like the cards come out too quickly for most people to stay current. You know what I mean? Like eventually you get to a point where it's like, well, I guess I need a new motherboard. And if I need a new motherboard, that means I probably got to get new RAM because the RAM I have isn't supported anymore. And then I need a new processor. And like, I'm still on a first gen i7 processor, and like they're up to like Gen 8 now or something like that. It's just like, it's a big investment to stay current in computer tech.
But yeah, and like I bought a 1080 Ti last year. I'm not looking to upgrade a card for at least 3 or 4 years. So I will be skipping like this set of cards, if not like the second set that comes out. If I am even interested in that, it would probably be after they take like a price cut because something else has come out.
Mm-hmm. And then the last, one of the last things I have, is that thing I think you tweeted at me or sent me on Discord was the Final Fantasy VII mod.
Oh, I saw that, but I didn't tweet it.
Yeah, so a dude made a mod for Final Fantasy VII that uses machine learning AI to upscale all of the game except for like the character models, and it looks so good. And it's just it exists. Like that's the thing. There's a Reddit thread where he posted it, and you can just get it. And he's got some example screenshots. And he's got a couple of videos, and it just looks incredible. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's only so much you can do, like with a game that old. But even then, it's just like, man, this looks really good. Like some of the shots from like the early game I'm looking at, like the whole section where you're running through like whatever that section is, like with the generators and stuff when you're opening with the terrorist action, and it's just like wow. But yeah. So that exists. Look it up.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I had on my news for this week is I've got a single line that says Kingdom Hearts 3 is a thing.
Sure is.
What about you, Sam? Do you give a shit about Kingdom Hearts at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to play the Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm stressed out about starting it though, because I'm gonna have to watch like one of those like 2-hour long story premiere videos to get me back into Kingdom Hearts to know what's going on. And I feel like just saying that in my head, like, oh yeah, you just gotta watch 2 hours of backstory before you're ready to start the game, hurts me on the inside.
I mean, 2 hours seems low because isn't there like there's Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, and then aren't there like 7 other games? Like
yes.
And they all have story relevant shit in them?
Yeah, and do we consider like the mobile games like fully story because they consider the mobile games part of the story? And
do I need a catalog of all the people that have been Norded?
Yeah. Hey, something I thought about though is for everybody that talks shit on Final Fantasy VIII being the worst of Final Fantasies, they sure trust Leon being Sora's like right-hand Final Fantasy man in those games. So
that's because he's the best.
Yeah, he is, and the Gunblade is still the coolest weapon that Final Fantasy has ever made. So suck it, other Final Fantasy fans, because it will always be the best. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a series.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop.
Full stop. I guess it's anime as hell. It's Disney as hell. It didn't become Marvel as hell, and if it is spoilers, don't ruin it for me. I don't know. As somebody who has played the last like 5 Final Fantasy games. I have been optimistically looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3. So I am going to give it a try, and I hope it's good. And if it's not, I'm just going to go back and play Tales of Symphonia again. So
and that game is fantastic. I bought the remake. It's funny because I had the remake of was it the pre-chapter? What it was the one that there have been 2 Kingdom Hearts remakes. One had
1.8 HD remix and 2.8 HD remix.
Yeah,
I think.
One of them had like 1 and 2 HD remix plus like a movie or something else. And the other one had all the extra games.
It was 2.5 and 2.8, I think.
Something like that.
Yes.
And so I got the one that's just the 2 mainline games that have been upscaled. So I've played the first one, I think when it first released, the first Kingdom Hearts on PS2. So I'm gonna hop into the second one, and I'm gonna go into the third one at some point, but and not anytime soon.
My big problem with Kingdom Hearts is like I like Square Enix a bit, you know what I mean, but I don't have any affection for Disney. Like I didn't grow up with the television, so like I never grew up watching Disney movies. Like I never saw the cartoons. Like I've since gone back and watched some of them, but it's like I have no nostalgia for Disney stuff. So it's like they're like, oh yeah, Mickey Mouse, he's a Keyblade master, and you hang out with Donald and Goofy, and it's like, well, I've only ever really seen like one thing with. I've seen the Goofy movie. You know what I mean? Like, so that's it for Goofy. Like, you know, I've seen a clip of you know, that clip that voice actors always rave about with, I think it was like, what's his name, Mel Brooks, the voice actor, where he's doing Bugs Bunny and the duck, but impersonating each other. Voice actors always point at that scene as being like an incredible work of voice acting, because he manages to do it where it sounds like the character impersonating the other character, and so it's like a 2-layer deep thing, and it's apparently incredibly hard for voice actors to do something like that. So I've seen that clip, but like I don't, there's no, like I got nothing for Disney. So it's like, okay, do I want to get into this game series where I don't really know any of the characters, and I don't really give a shit about any of the characters? Like I don't know anything about Dumbo. I don't know anything about well, like I don't know anything about Aladdin. Like I've only ever seen half of the first Aladdin movie. I've never seen the sequels. So it's like
you don't really need to know, like it's not like, you know, knowing the full storyline of Aladdin or Lion King or anything like that is the secret to solving the puzzle or anything. It's really just, to be honest, it's actually used as a way to sort of manipulate you and to make you think something's coming and then it won't. So a lot of the worlds end up playing out like mini versions of the movie, but certain worlds and stuff don't have maybe canonical stories to what is the movie. And spoilers for, I believe, Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, I don't remember which. One of the levels is 100 Acre Woods, and it's Winnie the Pooh.
They came out like 15 years ago. You're fine.
Yeah. But like, I mean, it's super late game, but like the whole 100 Acre Woods thing starts out as like a normal, like, you know, oh, I want my honey and Piglet and Tigger and stuff like that. But then it gets weirdly like sort of very distant and dark, and like kind of like makes you like question, like, you know, this place for friendship, like is it just for friends, and like all types of like sort of like dark conspiracies about like the inner workings of like this sort of presentation. And it sort of uses that stuff to make you feel at calm and like, oh, I know how this plays out because I love Disney movies. And then something unexpected happens, or the story plays out differently, and it's because the Heartless or whatever made it happen that way. But it's like a good way to like divert expectations for people that are Disney fans, and then also sort of introduce these characters without beating you over the head with the same story you've heard 1,000 times.
You know, what's interesting to me is the when I look at the Kingdom Hearts games, like they're heavy on Disney and hardly any Square Enix stuff in there. Like they've gone away from having remember the initial idea for the games was it's half Final Fantasy and half Disney, and it feels like it's gone away from the Final Fantasy characters and gone heavy on Disney stuff. Which it's first of all, kudos to Disney for letting Square Enix get away with everything they get away with in this series. But yeah, I don't know. I've lost, like, I play this now as someone who's just kind of interested to see how they recreate, utilize the Disney worlds more than anything else. Does that make sense?
No, I definitely think when the series started, the idea that it was half Disney, half Final Fantasy was not a trick, but a way to get people into the series. You know, especially it was a non-turn based, like real-time fighting system. You know, new lead character that's a child, and you could argue that some of the Final Fantasy characters might as well have been children. I think was sort of a way to get people into that. They have certainly created their own characters that, just because it is a Square Enix game, all of their main characters and villains end up sort of looking similar or like acting the same way. So I feel like that's the side of Final Fantasy that's in that game. Is yes, there's like, you know, Cloud is in there, and Leon and Tifa and all that stuff, and there's a couple others from different series in there, but it's mostly like the new Final Fantasy characters are all just the Kingdom Hearts only characters.
Sure. Any other news? I got one news. Metroid Prime 4. We did talk about this last week. Metroid Prime 4 has been is being rebooted, this time with Retro Studios. We talked a little bit in the Discord about this, but and of course the world was set on fire after this news broke last weekend. But yeah, Nintendo, the producer of is it the producer behind the game? I think it was. Let a video out that said, "Hey, sorry guys, we're decided that it wasn't the quality that we wanted, so we're rebooting it, and we're bringing our good friends at Retro Studios back on board." So for those that don't know, Retro Studios did the first 3 Metroid Prime games, which are fantastic. And it sounds like the Bandai Namco team, I think out of Singapore, which was handling this, just didn't do a good enough job, and so they brought it back to.
I think I said it 2 weeks ago. I think I said it on the show. The game wasn't coming out when everybody thought it was.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. So it certainly is puts a damper on folks, and nobody thought it was coming out this year. A lot of people had thoughts that it would come out next year. So it looks like it's going to be a 2021 game now at the earliest. Which you start to think, at that point, is it on like the Switch 2? Because you got to start. You're probably starting to look at games for the next generation of Switch, because that'll be the year 5 of this console. And at that point, do you just release a game? Do you release it as a the launch title for the next? Yeah, there you go. Sweet. Is it the launch title for the next version of the Switch? Which I can see that happening. I mean, it really does depend on how long it'll take them to do this, but they still have a ton of shit coming this year. Obviously, Pokemon, the mainline Pokemon, they got Animal Crossing. They'll pull something else out of their hat this year. You can almost guarantee it. They'll have a bunch of, they'll have some other surprises. They've already announced like Daemon X Machina, and potentially Bayonetta is going to be this year. I could see that popping out this year.
I got a pitch for you, Dally.
Yeah.
Call up Reggie. I know you got him on speed dial.
Yep, right here.
And just be like, we got a writer who not only can't use your console, but has never played through a Pokemon game. We want him to review the first console full Pokemon game. Send us one over.
The first Pokemon game that I've ever completed and lasted more than a couple hours in was Pokemon Let's Go for the Switch. That was the first one I've ever completed. I think I got like 40 or 50 hours into that game.
Did you catch them all?
Very close. The ones that I didn't catch, I actually had them on Pokemon Go, so I imported them. So I totally cheated as a way to get them in there. But yeah, I mean those 2 games, Pokemon and Animal Crossing, will be huge for the console already. And like I said, they got some other things planned this year. I still think 2020, you're getting a new Mario game and Splatoon 3, which are going to be also huge for them. So I don't think they're in any rush to pump this game out. I honestly, that Star Fox Racing game might be out this year too. So they might have plenty of games coming out this year already.
Which came out first, Odyssey or Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild came out in March of that year, or April, whenever. Maybe it was March, and Odyssey came out at the end of that year.
Breath of the Wild was the launch title.
Yeah.
So do you think we get a new Zelda before we get a new Mario? I knew Odyssey style Mario, because they might come out with a 2D type.
Yeah, thing, right? I think we're going to get a new 3D Zelda before we get a new 3D Mario, unless they do unless they're going to do something like 3D World. Like, I don't think we're getting a single player Mario. We're not getting a Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey next. We'll be getting
they did Mario Galaxy 2 years after Mario Galaxy 2, 2 years after Mario Galaxy 1.
Well, that's true. Unless they're going to do a direct sequel like that, I think the next thing we're going to get is a 3D like multiplayer focused Mario. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get some smaller multiplayer focused Zelda game also. But I would assume
Zelda Maker is still something that people want. Like, give me a Zelda Dungeon Maker.
As I've always said, take a Link to the Between Worlds. Take that game and make it multiplayer. Add like 1 or 2 dungeons that are just multiplayer focused, and that game would sell again, on the Switch, no problem. The big thing, I think it was very important for them to come out on a non-direct and mention this about Metroid. If they had gone into a direct and they're like, we'd like to talk a moment about Metroid, and they announced that the game had basically been restarted, people would have lost their minds. And it's not that people didn't already, but I think the tone has been that of a positive one of, okay, if Nintendo is going to take this step, like clearly it didn't, we trust that Nintendo will get good products to us. So thankfully that they're going about this. The bigger question is, and you brought up the Star Fox Racing game, what has Retro been working on for the past 4 years? Because the answer can't be nothing if they want to be a surviving company.
Right.
And if...
And it's not it's not updating Tropical Freeze for...
Yeah, they're not a port team as far as I know. So what have they been working on for the past couple of years? If they have been working on something, if they are thinking about taking on a huge project like Metroid Prime 4, clearly that project is close to done or done and waiting for something.
Apparently they made a pitch video that showed their intent for what Metroid Prime 4 was going to be, what Metroid Prime 4 could be, and that impressed Nintendo enough where they said, all right, let's pull the plug on what we were doing before and shift gears and give it to Retro. And I think that actually changed I think all this stuff probably happened relatively quickly over the last few weeks here, because I think they probably had a direct lined up for some point in January. They usually do a January direct, like the 2nd or 3rd week in January. And it sounds like this news, they needed to push this news out separately and then give it some space before they get into a direct. And I think their direct is coming in the next week or so, to be honest, because they got to set up what's coming for the next few months, which nobody really knows the release date for some things. I think the only thing that there is a release date for is was it the Fire Emblem game? I think it's supposed to come out in April or something like that. And there's something else. There's something else coming out this in the next couple months here, but I think they're gonna be pumping out a direct pretty soon.
Did Yoshi's Woolly World?
Oh, that's what it is. That's coming out in April.
Come out yet?
Yeah, that's coming out in April.
Okay. Hey, can I make a bold prediction?
Sure.
Because I had a fever dream the other night.
Yeah.
So we know that Craft World or whatever it's called, the Yoshi game is built on Unreal Engine 4. Have they said that they're going to start using Unreal for more stuff?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Because my question is, how easy is it to start dumping Nintendo games onto a PC if they're going to be built with PC engines? And is that a move Nintendo is thinking about doing?
So remember, they have a bunch of Wii games running on that NVIDIA Shield already. I don't think Nintendo's going to make that move to PC. Although, what was it? Didn't their president say, or their CEO say that they're not beholden to just a Switch console? Like down the line, whatever the winds take them is where they'll go. But I don't see them pumping to PC yet. They still want to push people to their Switch because they made buttloads of money on that Switch last year. So
I was just curious of what people think with that, only because it seems so like Unreal Engine is a choice. Like if you're going to like go out and reach out to other engine makers, like Unreal's clearly a great choice, but especially with the way that Epic's been like making moves, you got to think that if Epic learns that an internal Nintendo team is working on their engine, that they'd like a ear to them, some open communication.
What I can imagine, and maybe not Nintendo going to PC anytime soon, but their next console could be, or their gaming device could have some sort of PC architecture to it. So going away from this Android based, whatever was it the NVIDIA card, the Tegra that they use, maybe going away from this and pushing towards more PC style architecture or a backbone a little bit. I could see that happening though. Yeah. But maybe not necessarily pumping games on the PC. But yeah, that Epic money is they have a lot of say right now.
Well, it's not even for that. Like Nintendo has been like rubbing shoulders with Microsoft as of late too, and
you can get Xbox achievements on the Switch with Minecraft.
Yeah, and it's not so much that like we don't see like every game, but like I just wonder if looking towards other engines is sort of a way for them to kind of be like, well, maybe some games start ending up places. Like, I don't know if we ever see, unless things get real desperate over there, we ever see like a Zelda or a Mario coming out like day and date on another platform or anything like that. Or even like, a year or two later. I think the mainline stuff is stuck there. But, maybe we see something like these spin-off titles, right? Like Yoshi's Woolly World or something like a Project Steam.
These
codename Steam, actually.
What? That's true. Codename Steam. You know what? Really using these other pieces of middleware, this other software does is it makes it forward compatible. So it's not that once you get Unreal working on the Switch, then or let's say the Switch Pro, all the stuff you've had on the Switch automatically brings over. So it really does help down the line. When you're bringing, because I can imagine trying to port like GameCube and Wii games and stuff to the Switch has probably been difficult. It probably hasn't been the easiest thing they've had. It takes time to port some of this stuff because those engines were just kind of stuck on the devices they were at. That's why you haven't seen Wii stuff almost anywhere. You saw it on the Wii U, but only because it had that Metroid Prime backbone, and the game had to be completely redone. Games had to be completely redone from the ground up to get onto the 3DS that were Wii games. So I could see going to Unreal and Unity and some of the PC-based stuff being good for folks that are, worried about future compatibility if they buy their next Nintendo console. Either way, it's a bummer that the game's not coming out anytime soon. At the same time, I think it may not be as far away as we think it is because Retro already has a vision for it, and they have that backbone. They pumped out Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. They weren't all that far apart from each other, right?
No. Well, and if what they're working on currently is a Switch game, you would think they already have assets and tools and stuff, and can hit the ground running in development of a new Switch title.
So. Metroid Prime, let's see here. Metroid Prime 2 came out in 2004. Metroid Prime 1 came out in Metroid Prime 3 came out in 2007. So it's really only 3 years in between. The original Metroid Prime was 2002. So 2002, 2004, 2007. So it's really 2 to 3 years. So granted, they're working in HD now, but I don't see. I think it would be you're probably looking at a 2.5 year development schedule. I think for this game, but whatever, it is what it is. We'll find out.
What statement of confidence does this make that Nintendo has in Retro that Retro knows that they've been working on a Metroid Prime project internally? They pitched them something knowing full well that game was already in development, and Nintendo liked it so much they were like, yeah, we're canceling ours and handing you the key.
Yeah. We're 3/4 of the way done with this one. Let's start over.
Yeah, I think that's the craziest part that everybody brushed over here is like, they told Retro to pitch them a new game, and they pitched something they knew was in active development.
It's fantastic. I'm really curious. It's going to be a really interesting year, especially with E3 and with a bunch of other stuff coming around. It's going to be good. It's going to be really interesting next few months here when we discover stuff. But yeah, my prediction is by the next time we talk, we'll have had maybe have had a scheduled direct, or we'll have had a direct announced. at least.
Yeah.
So
I think people are talking about. They think something's going to get announced for a direct like this week.
Okay. Maybe tomorrow.
I thought I saw that. I thought, yeah.
Let's hope. I would like to see this alleged Star Fox racing game.
Yeah.
And also Joker in Smash.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take Animal Crossing footage if you're willing to be so nice, Nintendo.
So I had a thought to close out on. If we have
Sure.
maybe a minute, I got a question for you before I suggested Sam.
Okay.
How long would it take you to boot up and log into Eco?
Why?
Because I want you to log in, turn around, and look at my tower, and I want to see your reaction live on stream since you haven't seen it yet.
Give me if you give me 30 seconds, I can probably get Eco. Well, I got to start Steam, but hold on.
Yeah.
Let me close Discord and stuff. Vamp, why don't you wrap up the show while I'm doing that? If that's where you were going. I guess if we weren't wrapping up the show, then don't wrap up the show. But I felt like we were wrapping.
We could be rapping. We could be rapping.
I was just gonna keep not saying anything to see how long Sam would keep talking.
Yeah, man, I will hang myself on the shortest of ropes. You can't leave me out here alone.
Joker and Smash is something I'm actually interested in because
Yeah.
I really like Persona 5, so I'd love to see how he fights.
Oh well, here's one thing. Two things actually. There's a ton of great games coming out to PlayStation Plus in February, including Hitman. Dive Kick is coming. Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PS3. Gunhouse, Rogue Aces, and even For Honor is coming. So those are good games. And also the Darksiders War Mastered Edition was leaked for the Switch. At least the announcement was leaked, so it looks like that game is coming to the Switch. They're putting Darksiders on everything. So
did any of us play the new one?
I haven't. No, I mean, it went so under the radar because it was kind of stuck between a bajillion other releases. So,
I mean, I heard it was fine, but not great. But I mean, I would probably say that about number 1 and number 2, but they were still fun to play.
I think the bigger thing is Darksiders always propagated itself as B tier Legend of Zelda. And now, if you told them they were B tier Legend of Zelda, people would expect Breath of the Wild. So
yeah.
I think it had to stand on its own 2 legs, and it did not do that very well.
It was there you go. It was the Legend of Zelda for people who loved Zelda but didn't like the modern Zeldas until Breath of the Wild came out, and then people said, "Oh shit, this is the new Zelda, and that's not Zelda enough for us anymore."
Yeah, so I guess that would make old Zelda B tier Zelda, and then Darksiders has been relegated to C tier Zelda.
Oh, also, Quantic Dream is no longer working for is no longer exclusive to PlayStation. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but NetEase, I think, is a Chinese company.
It is. They're huge. They're a huge IT company.
They're massive. They're like they're almost like a counterpoint to Tencent, which is ginormous. But NetEase is investing in Quantic Dream, and they're going to make next gen multi-platform games.
NetEase is the same company that invested $100 million in Bungie.
Okay.
I do believe, and they are also the company that has a lot of investment in most of Blizzard's properties.
Okay.
I believe they're the ones working on the Diablo mobile.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
They're massive. That is the news.
Okay, I am in Eco. Bad news, I am not at my house. Give me about 30 seconds because Scratty's house is in between the 2 of ours here.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to see what else there might be. Gaming wise. Nope. That's not important. Nothing good there. Nothing good. Yeah, I don't know. I
got nothing else.
And I got nothing either.
The only other thing on my list was the Anthem stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
As we wait for
I know. Hold on. For some reason, Echo is not picking up my mouse for who knows why, even though it's there when I hit tab. So I'm trying to back up so I can see his house.
Oh, jeez.
I'm pulling up the list of games from March.
Okay.
Might as well since we're vamping. Sure. So what do we got coming up in March? We got Dead or Alive 6.
Mm-hmm.
That new Toe Jam and Earl game. Devil May Cry 5. Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn.
Nice.
Which you guys talked about earlier. Tom Clancy's The Division 2. That's what it was. People were talking about Anthem and The Division 2 and how a lot of people who were playing the demo of Anthem weren't feeling it the way they thought they were going to be. And the predictions are that The Division 2, based on what people have played at preview events, is going to blow it out of the water.
Oh, wow.
Because I guess it just Division 2 plays and feels like really good. Apparently they're building heavily off all of the post-launch content that Division 1 had. Because Division 1 launched pretty badly. But apparently by the end, with all the updates and tweaks and stuff, it turned into quite a game. So there's that. What else we got? Tropico 6 is coming out end of March.
Finally, that game took forever to get.
I'm very excited about that. And same day as that is Yoshi's Crafted World on the Nintendo Switch.
All right.
So I am currently gazing upon the home. And let me tell you, are you planning on taking off at some point? You got 3 windmills out here.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention the windmills.
We missed that conversation. Yeah.
Are they providing power?
They are. They do actually. Yeah, they're powering some of the workbenches inside.
Man, even Tom oh no, this is part of your wizard tower. This is an external building off of your wizard tower. The Tonka Truck Garden, which is
no, it's Tom's house.
Yeah, it's Tom. Well, yeah, he has a nice home. Man, I need to start playing this. I live in a shed that's not even complete. I'm gonna take the.
It's too late for me to jump into it. I'm assuming.
No, you can probably still. Well, if you own the game, there are no more codes. But if you bought it, you could totally get in.
Okay, I'll consider it.
You can live. We can dig out a hole for you to live in too. The woods has grown around my house. I have been abandoned into my little cabin that has no door. I do have a toilet though, so
you got Hansel and Gretel are coming to your house next. That's gonna happen. All right, I'm gonna sign us off. It's been 2 hours. It's been a phenomenal show as usual. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Jeff, thank you very much. You can find him at Jeff Grubb and at what site does he write for? IGN, I think, or One Up.
Something like he writes for One Up.
One Up. You can find me at Dolly Demofsky. You can find the site at SideQuesting. SideQuesting.com, SideQuesting TV on the Twitches and YouTubes. Where can we find you, Aaron?
You can find me Twitter and Twitch at ScrattyBones. I am one of the streamers we talked about.
Yes.
Streaming the Big Eco game. I stream roughly every other day, given how schedules work in that game. So I've streamed something like 12 to 18 hours of the game and whatnot. So if you're interested in what we talked about, you can absolutely check that out on my Twitch channel.
There you go. And Sam, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SamDI79. I will warn you that I am probably one more bad update away from deleting that service and never using it again.
Sam's been having issues.
Hey, and I'm sorry that sometimes during this podcast I feel like I get on a pulpit and rant for a second. But hey, if your answer to how bad your service is to tell me to use another service to make the first service tolerable, the first service is intolerable and you should stop using it. Just put that out there for, hey, Twitter's bad and the first recommendation for me is to download Tweetbot. I'm not looking to download more crap.
Right.
Crap work.
There you go.
So there's my soapbox. But I will say I will be starting to get more involved in this eco game. It may be too late for me to actually serve any purpose or impact. So maybe I just go around and take photos and troll people. But in a good way, not in a negative way. As I see Jeff Grubb moving around.
Hey, what's up, Jeff? Jeff's back.
I'm back. It's time for another Jeff Grubb takeover. We're going another 2 hours. Here we go. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. I love you guys. Good night. I just wanted to say goodbye. Bye.
Good night. See everybody. Bye, Sam. Bye, Jeff. Bye, Scratty Bones. Bye, everybody.